Hello and welcome to Lunch and Learn number 2. I realized right before, I'm like, who's going to start this? Like, who's going to start talking
You did
first?
a nice
I know.
job.
Well, yeah, I started, but I mean, like, what if we couldn't talk at the same time. We didn't. Now I just drew attention to that matter.
We try not to talk over each other. It's a learned
I think it's
behavior.
one of those things. Sorry. Sorry. I see what you're. We've been together a long time. It's like we finish each other's sandwiches.
All right. We are here to talk about the 4 ways to make money with notes, how you can make money with notes based on all the things we have done in our 35 plus years each in the note industry. I see people saying hello. I love that. Yeah, we are here and we are live.
We are. Matter of fact, if you missed the last episode, we put it up online for a short amount of time for some replays. But we're here, we're live, we're going to go over some really cool stuff of show you the money.
Yeah, and we like answering questions. So don't be shy. We'll monitor them and bring them up as they fit into the presentation. And of course, we'll have time at the end too.
Yeah, if I'm looking off camera here, it's not Rice Krispie treats or anything. It's like literally I have another laptop here to great. Now I want
Fred loves the Rice Krispie treat and an oatmeal raisin cookie.
All right. So moving on. More important, let's bring up a PowerPoint here and talk about the 4 ways you can make money of notes. And we're going to walk you through it. And spoiler alert, whether you have your own money and you want to invest, whether you have no money and you want to flip them for investment, are 2 of the big ways in there. And there's kind of a hybrid in between. I started with no money. You started with no money until you eventually have enough money to buy your own notes or own pieces of notes. And let's talk about what we're going to cover.
Absolutely. We're going to take our note investing example and we're going to show you 4 different profit strategies that you could apply to that real life example and how it actually turned out again in real life.
Yep. We're going to talk about the power of partials, which is one of our favorite things.
Absolutely. If you ask us what we do all over again, more partials. We always say the same thing. And we've got a few other creative options as well. So we are so excited to be here. What we're going to share with you today is based on our decades of experience. We are not financial advisors or attorneys. We don't play them on TV. And we always recommend you get your own financial and legal advice. This is based on our experience and what we've done over the years. And we are excited and happy to share that here with you.
Yep. Don't eat yellow snow. Don't swim after eating for an hour.
Yeah.
Whatever the normal things are we should put out. So let's look at an example. And this is buying a seller financed note. And this is actually a little bit of the example we came off before. And we want to stick to the same note because one of the things we want you to have as a takeaway is that there's more than one way to buy a note, depending on who you are, what your financial situation is, and what the deal dictates.
Yes. And so we'll take this note that we talked about as a seller finance note. Now, remember, a seller is when somebody owns a piece of property and they sell it to a buyer and they allow that buyer to pay them instead of going out and getting a bank loan. And they receive the payments and the interest just like a bank. They have all the same rights as the bank. So this seller finance note was created out of a sale of a property in Dallas, Texas, and it sold for $91,900.
Yep. The down payment was $5,000. So the note amount, this is what they start with after the down payment. So this is the note. The note is $86,900. They agreed on 9.5% interest, which made the payments $800.29 a month. And those are the payments they're going to mail directly to the seller of the property, which is now the note holder. And they're going to keep mailing those payments every month. And it goes for a term of 249 months. Just worked out. They're never an exact number. The last payment's always something a little bit off.
Listen, they're usually 30 years, those seller finance.
Yeah, I don't know.
Sometimes there's something different. And in this case, the buyer could afford the 800. They wanted that. So their amortization was 249 months. That's not the norm, but hey, not everything is normal.
Yep. So when this note comes to us, this note's already in progress. They've been collecting payments for a while. There are 176 notes, or excuse me, 176 months remaining on this note. And the seller would like to sell it and get cash. The seller's getting $800 a month, but they'd like a lump sum of money to go do something else. So at this moment in time, after they've been making payments for a while,
Almost 6 years.
Almost 6 years. There's 176 months remaining. So that made the balance 75,834. And if you watch the last video, why did it only go down only from 86 to 75? It's because they're mostly paying interest.
Yeah, we all know how amortization works, right? At the beginning, there's more interest and less principal. And as time goes on, then more goes to principal and less to interest as that balance goes down. So because they owe $75,000 on a $91,900 property, they have an 83% loan to value. Actually, in this case, their loan to value is more like 75% or less because the property had gone up over those 6 years of that buyer making payments. But worst case scenario, we know they've got 20% or more equity. That makes Barb, the buyer, the person making the payments, she's got skin in the game. Maybe not when she first only put $5,000 down, but definitely over the 6 years she's made payments. And this makes this a very attractive note.
Mm-hmm. So the seller of the note agreed to sell it at a discount. We don't typically pay 100 cents on the dollar for anything because we typically don't have to, and we do have a few closing costs. They agreed to sell the note for $68,430. So that meant the discount was going to be $7,400. So we were going to pay $68,000 for the $75,000 worth of unpaid balance. We're not going to change anything for the payer. It's still going to be $800 a month. It's still written at 9.5. And because we're paying a little bit less money for the same cash flow, our investment to value to what they sold the price for is 74.5%. But like Tracy said, the value's gone up. So there's actually even a little bit more equity in the property.
Yeah, we probably had a 68% investment to value on this. So this is the note. And we want to talk about the different ways that we could profit from this note that you could. So there are 4. We promised you 4. So we really are going to deliver on this. 4 different profit strategies. And we'll go through each one on this exact same note. So the first one is to refer the note. Mm-hmm. You want to talk how that works, or you want to save that for when we have the slide?
Sure, we can talk about how it works. So the referred note was exactly how I started, and Tracy did a lot of deals, and we still do this today on deals that we don't like, that don't fit our portfolio, maybe we don't want for some reason. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my directory and I'm going to partner the person that's selling the note with the person that will buy the note that is interested in that type of note. I'm going to put those two together. I'm kind of like a matchmaker. I'm going to do some work in between. I'm going to gather some information and pass it on. And then I'm going to get a referral fee for that note. On average, it's anywhere from $1,000 to $3,500.
Or you could buy the note. So you might want to earn while you learn, which is referring the note. Or you might want to buy the note. You could buy that in a self-directed IRA. You could buy that through an LLC. You could buy it as an individual if you wanted, but you would buy the note, and your strategy then is you want long-term cash flow. You want interest income, either for today money, or in the case of a self-directed retirement account, that grows in their tax-free or tax-deferred until you take withdrawal. So that would be profit strategy 2. And don't worry, we're not just going to tell you about them. We're going to show you how it works in exactly that deal.
Mm-hmm. The third one is buy a partial, and this is one of our favorite ones, and this is a way to handle it if you have a bigger note, maybe you have less money, maybe they don't need much money, and so if there's 100 payments, say, left in the note, we might buy 60 of them. We buy the next 60, and after those payments go by, they get the note back. They could then sell us another chunk or something like that, so we're going to show you a partial one here in a second, too.
And then we're going to do a mashup. Strategy number 4 is where we buy the whole note and we sell a partial. And we promise we'll go into a lot of detail on that. When you walk away, you'll be like us and go, "Ooh, I think that might be my favorite strategy."
It is my favorite. Yeah, it is my favorite. You don't get to do it on every deal, but it is one of my favorite strategies. And you're going to see why here in a minute here when we get to number 4. So the first one, refer the note.
So in this case, we looked at this deal. We like to know what other investors would offer too. So we had a third-party investor that said, "I like that note also for the same reasons you do. It's got 6 years of seasoning, good loan to value, good equity, good payment history, good collateral. So I'll buy that note for $70,000. They're still making a discount. But if we paid the seller $68,430 on this deal, we're going to make the difference. So on this deal, the referral fee would have been a little small. It would have been $1,570. Now, that's nothing to scoff at. As Fred mentioned, there's an average. We usually see 3 to 6% of the amount offered by the investor is kind of what your referral fee is. Kind of similar if you think about it as a real estate deal. But the beauty of this is you get to set your fee. And normally our fees are higher, but on this deal was a tight little deal. And so that would have been about the referral fee on this note. But for not having any costs in the deal, there's nothing wrong with getting a referral fee like that.
Yeah, normally what would happen is the investor, we'd go out and get quotes. The investor would say, maybe our best investor will pay $70,000. I would say, okay, well, how much do I want to make and how much do I think the seller would accept? So I might take off, say, $2,000 and change or $2,500 and change, and then I'd go back and offer them an odd number. In this case, we knew that that was the number that they were going to take, which is $68,430, which is unusual. So we just knew there wasn't a lot in the deal. But you know what? I'm not going to lose a deal over $1,500. Never think $1,500 isn't a lot of money, no matter what, no matter where you are. It can pay for marketing. It can pay to, go on vacation, whatever it might be. So, and it's $1,500. We didn't have any risk. We didn't have any costs. We basically just filled out a few forms and passed on the information.
Yeah. So in this case, the investor would perform the due diligence, as we'll talk about later. But they check title and they get the BPO and we get a fee at closing. So referring the note is a great way to start. Even if you have money to invest, it's also a great way to start because you get to learn on someone else's dollar.
Yep. And one person asked, there's a good point for this question is, do you do double close for referrals?
Normally, the way referrals work is you sign up the option agreement with the note seller, and then you go to the investor, and then they give you a fee agreement letter, and now they take over the transaction. And at closing, the assignment and the endorsement goes straight from the note seller to the investor, but you are protected because you have that option agreement. Basically, you're signing over your option agreement at closing, so you don't have to do a double closing. They send the money to the closing for the seller, and they send you your fee directly. There are some situations you might do double closing. When we get into the buy full, sell partial, you'll see why that might be the case. But normally, it's all these investors are reputable. You have the option agreement, you control the deal, and you get a fee agreement letter from that investor.
Yep. All right. Let's talk about so we were talking about. Let's talk about number 2. So that's one way we can buy the same note. We're going back to the same note. We could buy the note if we have our own money and we have the $68,430 either personally or maybe in a self-directed IRA. We could purchase this note at a discount. Now, we talked about this in the first episode of Lunch and Learn. We're going to talk about it right now. Why would I buy that? Well, it's a cash flow secured by real estate, and I'm going to get a better than average return out there than I would dropping it, say, in a CD or something like that. Matter of fact, if I buy this note at that price and everything pays the way it's supposed to, I have a yield rate of 11.36. That's how much I'm earning on my money, which is great.
Yes, and this is where people say, well, Barb the buyer who's paying Sam the seller. So Barb the buyer owns the property. She has to pay real estate taxes and insurance. She has to do upkeep. Sam the seller gets the payment every month and gets that 9.5% interest. He can never go back to Barb the buyer and say, I want you to pay me 11% interest, because the note is written. Nothing changes for Barb the buyer when we buy the note except where she mails her payment. So the reason that we're getting an 11.36% effective yield using something called time value of money is because, as Fred pointed out, is like we're buying it at a discount.
Yeah, we're paying less money for the same cash flow. And it's actually pretty easy to do in your calculator. You don't have to be afraid of it. We actually show you how to do that in our members area. We talk about things like that and how to figure out cash flows. It's not that hard. I've always said I don't like math, but I like money. So, but this is one example of why we buy deals at a discount. Think about it. I'm getting 11.36 on a note secured by real estate that was roughly about a 68% ITV, meaning there's plenty of value in the property. I have all the same rights that a bank does in the event they don't pay. I can work it out with them. If I had to foreclose, which is very rare in our situation, but if it comes to that, we do have the ability to take the property.
And then we would resell the property either for cash or turn it into another seller finance note. But most of the notes we buy, we underwrite them in such a way that they don't foreclose. They might get a little behind once in a while if somebody has a life circumstance, but they have enough equity in there. They have something to protect.
Yeah. And knock on wood, we're going to talk about it more in a future episode. But this is why, the reason we don't have to do this a lot is that we choose the types of property we buy notes on. So we might refer on or flip, like example number 1, we might flip on some notes that we think are a little riskier, or maybe we don't like the area, or maybe there's not enough equity in the property, things like that. And we tend to kind of, cherry pick the deals that we like.
Yeah. And don't think that we're sending somebody a bad deal.
No.
Because it's 100% a good deal. We reveal everything. It's just different people, different entities, different companies have different risk tolerance. Some people like business notes with no real estate. That we personally don't, but we have investors that do, and they love them. And of course, we would refer a deal to them. Maybe it's a big multi-million-dollar commercial deal, and we're not investing and putting that many kind of dollars into one note. And so that would we refer out. So it doesn't mean it's a bad deal. It just means it might not fit our risk profile.
Right.
All right. So we talked about referring a note for fee
and buying a note.
Buying a note at a discount.
So let's talk about partials.
And this, all right, let's talk about partials. All right, so your favorite analogy for a partial is pie.
Pie. So
recently pie, wasn't it Pie Day?
It was Pie Day, yeah, recently. Anyway, so the idea behind this partial that I try to explain to everybody is that I'm buying the whole thing, but I'm selling a partial. Now, partials, that's more the buy sell. That's more the next one, though, the whole pie example. But to start with the pie analogy is I'm going to buy a piece of what's already out there. I don't have to buy the whole pie. I'm going to buy a piece of it. So one way is to buy the entire thing. The other one is to buy just a portion of what's out there.
Yeah. So if a note had 30 years of payments, and you bought the whole pie, then you'd be entitled to all 30 years. If you bought half the pie, say 4 slices out of 8. So if you bought 180 payments out of 360 or 15 years out of 360, you bought half the pie. So that is one way you can buy notes. You don't have to buy all the payments. You can buy the right to some of the payments. Yep. So how did that?
So we're going to look at this. We're going to look at the same deal.
Yeah.
So the idea would be buy the right to receive the next 96 payments. Now remember, there are 176 payments remaining. We're going to make an offer to buy just the 96. Now there's a lot of reasons we might do that. We might do that because they don't need money. Maybe the discount was too great to sell the full. Maybe we're not real comfortable with, the amount of equity in the property or how much we want invested with that property as collateral. So there's a lot of reasons why we would do a partial, but a partial purchase can exist on just about any note that's out there. Any note that anybody has, we could buy a part of it. I had one that I bought literally the next 12 payments, and the next year I bought 12 payments. The next year I bought 12 payments. So we're going to buy the right to receive. We're going to make an offer to buy the right to receive the next 96 payments.
And we've determined that if we're going to do a partial, they're a little bit different than a full. And so we'd like to earn a little bit more yield. And so if we wanted to earn 13% on our money, we would pay $47,615 for the right to receive an amount equal to the next 96 monthly payments. So we get a nice little yield. We invest a little bit less. And we're going to collect the 96 payments. And then at the end of those 96 payments, we will assign the deed of trust and endorse the note back to the note seller. In the meantime, we usually use a servicing company that protects our interests and the note seller's interests. And so they're instructed that once we've received our 96 payments, that the assignment and the endorsement go back to the note seller. Now, here's the cool thing for the note seller.
Yeah. So remember how it takes a long time to pay down that balance if you're the payer on there? Well, the seller's collecting that, and they're on the right side of the cash register because they're receiving mostly interest. The balance to the seller in 8 years when we give the note back to them is $47,249. So think about this. The seller right now, for selling the next 96 payments, the 96 out of 176 available, they sell the next 96. The seller receives $47,615 now, and they can go on a trip, buy a boat, pay medical expenses, taxes, whatever they needed that money for. After 8 years go by, they get the note balance back, and the payer still owes them at that point in time $47,249. If you take all those payments, it's a future balance of $94,000. But it's more than their current balance right now because they're selling off a lot of interest of those payments. That's what they're getting.
Basically, that's what they did. They sold off interest.
Yeah, what they could do is they could sell us 96 and then they could sell us the rest of it. we'd pay something for that.
A lot of times they do. Sometimes they'll sell us 96 and 24 months go by and they want to sell us the rest. And we can do that too. So this is a way to get a seller money now and money later. It works great for sellers to say, I don't want a discount. And it's like, okay, well, we can buy half now and half later. We'll give you half now and then we'll reassign the balance to you or buy it later. So it's a really great way, as Fred mentioned, to reduce your risk, increase your yield, and take away the ouch of the discount to the note seller.
Right. And this is a good time to talk about what people say. A lot of people say right now, what happens if it pays off early? And what happens if you have to take it back or something like that. So first of all, let me just, the first part, the one question is, well, someone actually left the comment Schedule B, which they're actually ahead of us on there. But at every point that we're collecting a payment during those 96 payments, there is what's called a Schedule B. And it shows if they pay it off early, if they ever pay off the note, it shows how much I'm entitled to, what's left of my 96 payment, the present value of my 96. And the remaining goes to the back end, if you will. And so at any given point, there is a schedule that shows, matter of fact, we give the seller that schedule so they see that all along the way. Nobody's surprised.
Yeah, no surprises.
In the event that there is a foreclosure for some reason, or they give up the property and we take it back, again, we're only entitled to what we bought. And then the remainder goes off for the seller if there's somebody else that owns a piece of that.
Yeah, there is an agreement called the partial agreement, the purchase agreement, and the purchase agreement happens on a full and the purchase agreement happens on the partial. And that agreement just reads differently when we're receiving X number of payments and then assigning it back. It's very important to do this in a way that you're not fractionizing or divvying up the note. There's only one note holder at a time. And so we hold the note while we are collecting on our portion, and then we assign it back, and the seller holds the note while they're collecting on their portion. And we use an entity like a third-party licensed servicing company to take care of all that for us. So really great questions. We have a whole Perfecting Our Partials masterclass.
Right.
So we're not trying to make it sound easier than it is. We're not trying to make it sound harder than it is. Just know we've been doing this for 30 plus years and we have it pretty dialed in with documentation. And we are happy to share that sample documentation in our trainings. And we always suggest in the more complicated deals like this, that you do work with your servicing company and your attorney, but it's a lot easier to start out with something that's been proven over decades. And so partials are one of our favorite. They don't happen on all transactions, but they are a very powerful tool.
Yep.
Any more questions on that?
There's one, but I'm going to hold that question until a little bit later.
Excellent.
So,
and I do love that somebody said Schedule B, because Schedule A is the the buyer's amortization schedule, and Schedule B is what we're due, and then there's Schedule C that we call, that's what the seller's owed. So it's just amortization schedules. They just all match up.
Yep.
All right, so that's pretty cool. So now we're just going to take a breath and we're going to go clear our minds and go, wow, I learned about referring a note, learned about buying all of the note. I learned about buying a partial. Now I'm going to do a mashup and I'm going to buy the whole note. So I'm going to own the whole note. You and I, we can do it together.
Okay.
And I'm going to sell part of the note. So I'm buying all the note from Sam the seller, but I'm going to bring in an investor to sell part of the note too. This is a really cool strategy. It's a great way to recapitalize and get your money out there working again.
This is where my pie analogy really comes into play.
This is where your pie analogy. Okay, you tell the pie analogy
right, so the
before we get to the numbers.
This is all this is. Before we throw numbers up here and you think this is this super crazy strategy, it's not. If I buy a pie for $10, and I sell Tracy half of the pie for $10, what do I have? I have half of a free pie. So we're going to buy an entire note. And then because of the way the rates are, or we have an investor that's willing to, someone asked the question of where to find partials. This is something that a lot of people in our membership do. They buy whole notes and they sell off partials at a slightly lower yield. So we're going to buy a full and we're going to sell a partial. And if we get lucky, we're going to sell that partial for the same price we paid to do the whole thing. So let's talk about this.
All right. So we're buying a whole pie. We're selling off half the pie. And we get the money from selling the pie and we own half the pie. I like it.
Yes.
Okay. Here we are. We're back to buying the whole note. We're going to buy all remaining 176 payments for that same $68,430 that we started out with.
Yep. What we're going to do is that we found an investor that is, or will find an investor that's willing to buy 144 payments for $68,430. And the reason is they're happy with a lower investment return than we are. This happens a lot of people that just have money sitting in a retirement account go, well, if you can give me 8% or something on my money, I'd be happy. So this is how we're going to buy a full. So we're going to take the $68,000 that we know we can get 144 payments for, and we're going to buy the whole note. So we're going to sell the next 144.
And the cool thing is, if you take 176 payments that we bought a full of, the whole pie, and you take out the 144 we sold, we're keeping 32 payments. So 176 minus 144, we're going to keep 32 payments. Now, those are out in the future. That's called a back end. But we get 32 payments of $829. So that's a cash flow in the future of over $25,000. Not bad, right? Because remember, how much money do we now have in this deal? Zero. Because we bought all of it, the whole pie, for $68,430. We sold off more than half the pie, about 3/4 of the pie or more, for the same amount, but we kept 32 payments. So what's our return? Well, if you have $0 invested and now I have a $25,000 cash flow in the future, you know what you're going to get in your calculator? You're going to get an error 5. Why? Because this is, you can't own all of that with $0 invested. So you got to stay at least invested $1.
Right.
And you really, what we call this is infinite return. So when you hear like to infinity beyond, right, from the movie, but we call this infinite return, because if you can get money out, get it back, and keep building these cash flows out into the future, now you have an infinite return on your money.
Yeah, this is just one strategy. If I need money today, and then we're going to talk about this in a second. So which one of these did we do? If I need money today, then I might, and I don't have money to invest, then I'm going to flip the note and I'm going to get the $1,500 and I'm going to go, great, I got $1,500. If I need money, later and I'm okay with the returns of the $800 a month and I want to invest my money at a good yield, then I'm going to do the second one. If I am going, okay, I'm set right now, I'm really planning on my future. My future would be, you know what? I'm not going to take any money now. Matter of fact, and by the way, I don't have anything taxable now because I haven't earned anything. And in the future, I'm going to get 32 payments of $800 a month. Now, I don't know how many of these you need to do to change your retirement or to change your future 10, 15 years from now. But if you did 10 of these deals at 32 payments of $800, that's a lot of cash flow later for no cost today.
Yeah. And we didn't get into it today, but we are going to cover it in session 4. There's another way to do that where you get some of the monthly cash flow now as well. It's another advanced strategy.
It's a partial of a partial of a partial.
It's really a hypothecation, but similar, yes. So we will promise to give you an example of that in our Lunch and Learn session 4. But today we really wanted to plant the seeds of the 4 main ways.
So which of those did we do on this actual deal? Which of those strategy, which one did we choose to do?
Well, we wanted to buy the full and board it with the servicer, get it collecting. And because Sam, the seller, had been receiving the payments, we want to get it with the servicer. We had plans to sell a partial. So we bought it in a retirement account and we're like, okay, we love that buy full, sell partial. You can re-churn your money. You can get velocity. If we can do it, that's our favorite. So we were going to buy a full with plans to sell a partial. So that was the plan.
Yep. That was the plan. So we, again, had the prop. You've seen the numbers, 91,009. So basically we purchased the note for 68,430, which gave us a gross return of 11.36. If we did nothing else, that would be okay. We'd be earning 11.36 on our money. Now, we had planned on selling off a partial to somebody else, recapitalizing some of that money, getting a good return and moving on and getting some more notes and building that up. And that's how we build it up over years. But plans change. And what happened is they paid off. We collected 7 payments and then they went out and they refinanced the note with a bank and they paid us off. Now, here's the good thing. We bought a cash flow at a discount, but we get paid at the full amount that they owe. So in 7 months, we had a pretty good return.
Yes. So we collected about $5,600 in monthly payments to the individual retirement account. And then because it paid off, we got all that discount. We got about a 25.74% gross. We always calculate net. return as well. That's after costs like servicing and acquisition, but still an excellent return of 24%. The only thing we're super sad about is now we got to go out and find another good note to reinvest that money in.
Yep.
It's also important to note that that is the 24% return during the time we held.
It's a 7-month return. Yeah. It's not an annual return. If we did nothing and let it sit there, it would probably go down to about an 18% return a year if we didn't reinvest it for the year.
Yeah. So
I'm just guessing. I don't actually know what the number is, but it's probably the
so, that's how that specific note turned out. It was bought in the IRA. We were going to sell off a partial, and but it paid off early. And we call that the happy payoff dance. You never are sad when a note pays off early, as long as you have some discount built in.
Yep.
Now, if you didn't have any discount built in, you paid 100 cents on the dollar, you wouldn't be happy because you hadn't even.
One of the reasons why the discount.
Yeah. We wouldn't even have a chance to earn back probably your costs in that short amount of time. So that's one of the reasons we like discounts. All right. We love notes, and we're not just going to do that specific deal. We're going to look at 2 more deals today.
And then we're going to answer some questions that are, I see coming in here.
Anytime. Yeah. This is the Texas partial recapitalization.
Yep. So this is a property. This is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath in Dallas, Texas. The sale was $60,000 with $6,000 down. So it was a 10% down. The seller carried back $54,000. They wrote the note for 11.5%, and it was a fully amortized note over 30 years. So it was $534 a month and 76 cents over 30 years.
Yeah. So that one had a normal amortization, right? Yep. And the concept is we're going to buy the whole note and sell a partial. And that's what we did on this. And you'll see that. But we also wanted to make some money now. Mm-hmm. Is that actually possible? And it is. And we wanted to make some money later. So we bought the full note from the seller for $47,500. All right. So there's a $54,000 note. We bought it for $47,500. We collected 2 payments, and we sold a partial to an investor.
Yep. So we sold the next 279 months for $51,000.
Wait, that's more than what we bought it for.
It is more than we bought it for. So we sold 279 for 51. So right out of the gate, you can see that the investor, the note buyer, is going to yield 11.7% on there. We netted $3,500 out of there because remember we got $51,000 for 279, but we only paid $47 for the whole thing. Remember the buy, full, sell, partial. So we received $3,500 now today. Plus we had actually already got 2 payments. Mm-hmm. And then we keep the 79 payments on the back end. Those are still our payments out in the future.
Yeah. So we bought a full note. We sold a partial for more than we bought the full. We got some money at closing, basically a referral fee at closing, and we built ourselves into the deal. And how much money do we still have invested in this deal?
None.
Okay.
Yep.
So real life deal. When you've been doing this a while, this one paid off, but it paid off 18 years later.
Yep.
They paid off.
So keep in mind at this point in 18 years, we're not to getting the note back yet. Remember, we sold off a bunch of payments, or we're in the middle of that, and there's a Schedule B, and the Schedule B says, hey, if they pay off early, here's how much the first person gets, and here's how we get as the back end. So we have a value of what our back end's worth. We're not there yet, but it does have a value. So we received a check for the remainder amount, what we were due for our portion of the back end of the note. And so we got a check that we didn't even plan on for $17,262. Now, would I have rather had the cash flow later? Yes. Am I upset that I got a check for $17,262? No. Am I upset that this particular deal, I don't think was in an IRA?
It wasn't. We had to pay ordinary tax.
So we had ordinary tax on $17,000. Yeah, I wasn't real happy about that, but it's okay. It's still money that cost me absolutely nothing.
I think it came in about the time our daughter was going to college. So that was a big help.
Could be. Yeah.
All right. There's one more example. We want to look at one more deal. And this one's actually pretty simple and straightforward because we gave you a little more hard ones, right?
Yeah. So this is a Florida referral deal. So this is a property that was in Florida that it was a 2-bedroom, 2-bath mobile home in Okeechobee. It was with land.
Very important.
It did have land. And it was $95,000 sale with $25,000 down. So it was a really good down payment. So they had a $70,000 note that's 6% for 30 years, $419,000.
$419.
Sorry.
Payment.
$419. It wasn't particularly a deal we were interested in. I don't remember specifically now why. It was very rural.
There were some insurance issues that we felt the investor, being a bank, was better able to solve. Yeah. Go ahead.
So the unpaid balance was $48,424. So they'd paid it down to that far. So there were 173 payments left.
So just think about it for a minute. If they may be thinking, I don't want to do mobile home and land notes, but like, wait, they put $25,000 down. Yeah. But wait, they paid for 15 years on time. They only have 173 left.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what we decided to do with this is to refer the note. And we got it under contract with an option agreement. And we have an investor that was happy to buy the note. And the investor paid $31,114.82. We agreed to pay the seller $26,589.13. And we really do use cents and odd numbers like this because we want to give the seller the most that we can and show that we're giving them the full true value of their note. Mm-hmm. And so if you subtract what the investor paid, so remember the investor paid $31,000 for a $48,000 balance, out of the $31,26,500 goes to the seller. And so we earned a $4,525.69 referral fee. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And in this case, the investor had paid the cost on that. And we were very happy. And we did a really great service. This note actually had a story. It had been inherited.
There was a lot of work on this.
And we had to have an estate help get solved. We had to go through title. And so the attorneys with the bank helped a lot with that, saved a lot of expense on that. That's another reason that we felt like it was a better deal. We could get the seller more money if we referred it. So this is just a really straightforward deal. We kind of like to end on a straightforward one because we don't want people to go, oh, this is too hard for us to do. It's not. It's very straightforward. There are investors that we have a directory of that will buy these notes and pay you a referral fee and help you. You've just got to go out and find the notes, right? That's such an important piece of this business, is finding those notes. Now, there's a lot of ways that you can make these notes work for you. Let's just recap.
Yep. So you can find notes and just refer them for a fee. That's how I started out. That's if you don't have your own money to invest in notes or tie up in notes right now, that would be the way to start.
You can buy a note in or outside of a retirement account and hold it for cash flow and interest income.
Yep. You can buy a full and sell a partial. So that's a good way to start owning pieces of notes.
You could buy a note and you could hypothecate. That's a fancy word for borrowing against it. Lots of people understand, I'm going to buy real estate and borrow money against it. I'm going to leverage. You can do that with a note as well. And as we mentioned, we'll be giving you an example of that in Lunch and Learn number 4.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So you can buy and restructure it. You can go and, maybe the person that's making payments, there's some really fun strategies as far as going there and saying, hey, look, if you double your payment, I'll cut the interest rate in half. And then it shows how you're accelerating on your side, but they pay it off sooner and save money. So there's some really fun ways to do that.
You could buy or sell a property using owner financing. So you're like, I don't want to go out and find notes. I'm just going to create them myself on property I own. Really great strategy. Many landlords.
Yeah, a lot of the burned out landlords are starting to do that.
Yeah, and we help with that as well.
Yeah. You can be a private lender. You can actually lend your money to people that are creating notes. You can also just be somebody that sits around and buys notes from other people that are creating notes and lend money against them.
And you can buy a non-performing note. There are not as many non-performing notes available for purchase as there were after the 2008-2010 subprime mortgage meltdown. There is some uptick in non-performing, but there are non-performing notes out there that, of course, you buy at much lower dollars because you've got to plan on either helping the people get back on track or having to foreclose and take the property back. So those are all different ways to make notes work for you. And of course, you're probably thinking, well, how do I find notes to be able to do all those cool strategies? And that's what we'll be covering in Lunch and Learn number 3. So we invite you to join us for that as well. And that will also be live. If you want a little refresher or you want any of this information, we invite you to come to our website, which is noteinvestor.com/101. And you'll put in your email address and we will send you to replays and give you some cool free ebooks that help explain all of this a little bit more.
Yeah.
All right. So,
just a couple of questions to kind of clean up on the process here. Tim had asked basically the pros and cons of buying a note with a balloon, and that's a great question. The short answer on that is that there are mostly cons.
Let's explain what a balloon is.
I'm going to hold on. I've been here before. So a balloon is basically where someone amortizes a note over 30 years, say, but they say, hey, whatever the balance is at this X moment in time, the balance is due. So in other words, someone might carry back a note and say, hey, look, I'm willing to carry back a note for you, but I really don't want to be on the hook for 30 years. So let's do this. I'm gonna amortize it over 30 years to create your payment. And whatever the balance is, we're going to say it's a 30-year note, but it's a balloon at 10 years. And that gives you 10 years to clean up your credit and go refinance at that time. So it fits into the calculator just fine. It's no problem. We tend to be concerned about balloons, and without going into the math behind it, what we do is we basically, when we quote balloons, we just do one of two things. Is we say, hey, you know what? We'll buy all the payments. So we'll buy a partial. We'll buy all the payments all the way up to the balloon, and you can keep the balloon. So this will give you cash now, and when the balloon comes due, you get it. So now I don't have to worry about anything about the balloon because I'm not even buying the balloon. Or what I do is I buy the note and assume that it is amortized on my side. It's not really amortized, but I go, look, my pay price will be based on the fact that they don't pay the balloon and the payment's just continuing. And then if they do end up paying the balloon, guess what? My yield went up, but I protected myself from a calculator standpoint.
Great answer.
Thanks. Someone said, where do you find partials to purchase?
Great question, Raj. There are multiple ways to find notes. And some sellers of notes, if you do direct marketing, you will want to do a partial, or you can network with other investors who bought notes that want to recapitalize and sell a partial. So those are great methodologies. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in our next Lunch and Learn, which is the whole session dedicated how to find notes.
Yep. Paul, great question. I'm 32. Which of these would you focus on?
All of them.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I mean, after a while, you have the ability to do any of them. So once you have a nest egg of money and you have, like, we have self-directed IRAs and we have cash, so we're able to buy notes. So all of them are open to us because we have cash to buy notes. Until you have cash to buy notes, then I would say you're going to flip notes and you're going to buy full and sell partials to own pieces of notes until such time that you've built up enough money to then buy your own notes. And you might start, there's a lot of small notes that institutions won't buy, that investors won't buy. And I'm talking, under 20,000, under 10,000, even these little notes, or you can invest and buy pieces of partials from somebody. And a lot of our members will buy notes and sell notes. So you're going to buy partials that way. But there's really no straight answer other than, not because of age. It's more how much time do you have to be in the business, which we'll talk about in a future Lunch and Learn. And how much money do you have? And if you don't have any money, that's okay. Then you just get your foot wet by flipping notes or owning pieces of notes. Sebastian has several questions regarding to where do I find hypothecations? Do you have any resources? Yeah, and we're going to talk about how to find notes in the next webinar. He also asked if he must have had the directory. He says, are you only looking in Florida?
Yeah, so we like to purchase close to home. We also buy quite a few notes in Texas. Everybody loves buying notes in Texas because it's very favorable. But we have investors that will buy notes in other states as well. And we have the directory of note buyers. We don't make it all secret, but we have a good network. And so we really do help people figure out where is the best home for their note. And we're not trying to say we're the best home for every note because we're not. I mean, we work with banks because banks have a cheaper cost of funds than we do. So we like certain kinds of notes for a private investor. And then we like bank funds for some of the other notes that have to have that kind of low cost funds to be able to get the deal done. So the seller doesn't have to take a huge discount, especially if you see a note with a 4 or 5% rate. And, banks can afford lower rates versus all of us, right? We don't have access to the Fed Reserve money. So so the answer is, that would be more in-depth question, but yes, so we can assist with that.
Yeah. All right. Well, the next webinar, we're going to talk about how to find notes. And we're going to show you the best place to find notes, how we find notes, what the top ways to find notes are. And if you want to watch a replay of the last one, if you missed it, it was go to noteinvestor.com/learn 2026. We'll have the replay up there for a little while.
As well as this one, in case you want to slow it down and go, what were those numbers.
Why are they talking so fast?
Yeah, we do tend to talk fast. We get excited and we talk fast, and we think we have so much we have to say in a short amount of time. You guys are saying some really nice things. Thank you for attending live. We love doing these live because we get your feedback. We feed off your feedback, so we appreciate the people that did show up live and ask questions, and you guys always ask great questions. So thank you so much for joining us for Lunch and Learn number 2. We'll see you for number 3 on how to find notes, and until then,
happy note investing.
Happy note investing.